look, you would have all of those considered. Does that make sense to everybody? Is everybody with me on that? Okay. A petition for a sentence reduction under this section may be filed 6 months after the date on which the 9th year of imprisonment begins for an incarcerated individual sentenced to more than 10 years of imprisonment. So this bill is for people who have over 10 years of a sentence. Because otherwise we will have bad judicial flood problems, which the legislature simply won't go for. And the focus of this bill is for people who are serving extreme sentences and have no shot. So when the person reaches 9 years and 6 months of incarceration, they will be notified by MDOC that they are permitted to apply for this, which gives them 6 months to prepare their application. Because you want that application to be right.
Okay.
All right. The next important section. Except otherwise provided in this subsection, if a petition for a reduction in sentence under this is denied, the incarcerated individual can reapply after 2 years have elapsed from the date on which the petition was denied. Meaning, if you apply for a second look and they say no, in 24 months you can reapply. The only exception to that rule is if the judge says, I'm going to give you a second look, meaning I'm going to grant your petition, but you have conditions. For example, complete your GED, take this anger management course, take this addiction course, and I'm going to give you, the maximum they can give you is 5 years in which to complete that work. So that is the only caveat to this. So if a judge says, yeah, I think you're good to go, but I want you to do X, Y, and Z, that is the only exception to the 2-year reapplication rule.
Look here.
Now, this is very important. And I want everybody to open their ears because this is the question I get more than anything else. So listen up. No offense or sentence disqualifies an incarcerated individual from relief under this section. Did everybody get that? No offense or sentence disqualifies an incarcerated person from relief under this section. There are no carve-outs unless the person has been convicted of a mass shooting. That's it.
That's amazing. Thank you.
Can you repeat that?
Sorry?
Marsha, what did you say?
Hi, can you repeat that last thing, please?
No offense or sentence disqualifies an incarcerated individual from relief under this section, unless they have perpetrated a mass shooting. And I will read to you the definition of a mass shooting under this section. For the purposes of this chapter, an individual has been convicted of a mass shooting offense if they have been convicted of 3 or more counts of first-degree premeditated murder arising out of a single incident, and the sentencing judge or their successor determined by clear and convincing evidence that the murders resulted in physical, emotional, or psychological injury to a large number of people who were present for the offense, the murders significantly increased the burden of victim assistance, and the murders arose out of an incident where the applicant brought firearms and ammunition to a school, hospital, place of business, nonprofit institution, or governmental institution with the intent to kill. So basically, unless you walked in with a machine gun,
Right.
to one of these types of institutions and mowed down as many people as you could, you are not excluded from this bill. Does that make sense to everyone?
Yes.
Absolutely.
All right.
Wow, a lot of work went into that. Whew.
It sure did. Now, this is also very important. The sentencing court may reduce the sentence or deny the petition. The court cannot increase the sentence. Under any circumstances, there will not be an increase of sentence. The court also has full discretion to reduce a mandatory sentence or a sentence imposed as the result of a binding plea or sentencing agreement. So if your loved one entered into a plea agreement, even if it was binding, or they are sentenced to a mandatory minimum, they are still eligible under this section. Does that make sense to everyone?
Yes.
Okay. Then there's stuff that has to be put in the application, which is boring. Obviously their name, their number, their, all of the practical things that they need. All right, so then,
Alex, can we pause a minute?
yes, please.
Okay, is there anybody with time constraints on needing to be here and do your recording?
John's ready for the next one.
Right, I'm just trying to figure out if someone needs to hurry and get out, I'll move you into the room to start your recording. Otherwise, who would like to go next? I'll just pick. I don't know who to send next.
I'm sorry, I came in a little late. What are you talking about as far as the recording?
Okay, so what we're doing today is recording our outside family voices in support of the second look bill.
Okay,
And what we would do is send you over to the breakout room with Jason, our village manager, and he will walk you through making a recording in support of the bill. Would you like to go in and do that now, or
Cindy has her hand up.
who? Cindy?
Yeah.
Cindy. Okay, I will send you in right now. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just have a really quick question because I came in late and I don't know if there was an explanation regarding like how the recording works or whatever. So will that be explained when we go into that space to do that?
Yes, it will. Jason is
Okay,
amazing and he
awesome.
will explain every step of the way. And you'll be able to share as you like. In one of the sessions, actually, someone called in and they were able to include the voice of their inside loved one as well. So.
Oh, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you for coming. Thank you, everybody, for showing. Sorry,
Yes,
Alex. Thank
for
you.
supporting this. No, not at all. I love what you're doing, Nadia. It's awesome.
Thank you.
All right, so your loved one has served 10 years. They apply for a second look. The judge grants their application for a resentencing hearing. So what is the judge going to consider? What are we asking the judge in this bill to consider? So I'm going to read that section to you. So the first thing is a hearing under this section must be conducted on the record. So your loved one will know why they are granted or denied. They must lay that out in open court. So we ask the court to consider all relevant evidence, which includes but is not limited to the following: the age of the incarcerated individual at the time of offense, and relevant research regarding child, adolescent, and young adult brain development. The age of the incarcerated individual at the time of the sentence modification petition, and relevant research regarding the decline in criminal behavior as individuals grow older. The nature of the offense, including changing societal attitudes regarding the propriety of criminalizing the offense and the appropriate sentence for the offense. The history and characteristics of the incarcerated individual at the time of petition for a reduction in sentence, including rehabilitation demonstrated by the incarcerated individual, their disciplinary record while incarcerated, their individual efforts to participate in educational, therapeutic, and vocational opportunities while incarcerated. The circumstances of the offense, including the individual's role in its commission, whether the incarcerated individual was under the influence of another, and the proportionality of the incarcerated individual's sentence compared to that received by other parties to the offense. Circumstances of the incarcerated individual's incarceration, including conditions of confinement, the impact of the incarcerated individual's incarceration on their community, any evidence that the incarcerated individual has been subjected to sexual, physical, or psychological abuse while incarcerated, any evidence concerning the incarcerated individual's current physical or mental health and the incarcerated individual's health at the time of the offense, any evidence concerning plea offers by the prosecuting attorney, any evidence that the incarcerated individual was denied effective assistance of counsel at any stage in the case resulting in the original sentence, including ineffective assistance of counsel during the plea bargaining stage, any oral or written statements provided by the victim's representatives, any evidence that the incarcerated individual was wrongfully convicted, any evidence that the incarcerated individual was subject to human trafficking and that the victimization was a contributing factor to the incarcerated individual's criminal behavior, any evidence that the incarcerated individual was subjected to physical, sexual, or psychological abuse by an intimate partner or a family or household member, and that the victimization was a contributing factor, the parole guidelines as calculated in accordance with MCL 9791, if available, the individual's family and home environment at the time of the offense, including any evidence of childhood abuse or neglect, lack of adequate parenting or education, prior exposure to violence and susceptibility to psychological damage or emotional disturbance. Any other information the court deems relevant to the decision of the court. Does all that make sense to everyone? I know that's a very long list.
Yes.
But these are all
Yes.
things that we want the court to take into consideration, plus anything else that is deemed relevant to the case.
Is this verbiage like available to be emailed as well?
Senator Chang will be releasing a copy of the bill soon, which will be widely distributed, yes.
Okay,
Great,
perfect. Thank you.
perfect.
Teresa, once I get that, I can also share with you
Yeah.
once she has released it, okay?
I would love that. Thank you.
We all are waiting.
And I'm sure
Yeah.
once it's released, if we can do something like this again to get, like, when people have a chance to read it and they have questions, I think it would be great if we could do something like this where we could have your, ability to answer some of those questions. That would be great.
If it's not already scheduled.
Yeah, and in addition to all of this, we have asked for expedited hearings for people who are severely physically or mentally ill or senior.
Great.
And the definition of senior in this bill is defined as 55 and older.
Yes.
All right.
Yes, thank you.
That is
That's our guys
awesome.
with
Thank
50
you.
years in.
Cindy,
Yes.
you have a question? I
Yes.
saw you raise your hand.
No, Nadia, Jason just wanted me to let you know that he's ready for the next person. And if people need to leave early, which I do, that he'd like to take them in that order, and that he will continue to do the recordings even after this hour session has
Oh,
ended.
wonderful. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
And I
Thank
already
you.
sent the
Welcome.
next person in.
Thank
Thank
you
you,
all.
and thank you for coming. We appreciate you so much.
Thank you.
Yes, we do. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Would you guys be doing the recordings in this evening session?
Yes, we are.
Okay, thank you.
Bring anybody that would like to join us.
Any and all.
Okay,
The other thing that everybody should be aware about in this bill is that your loved one has the right to an appeal. So if they are wrongfully denied, there is judicial bias, anything like that, that is, being perpetrated, we do have the right under this section to take their petition to the Court of Appeals.
That's awesome.
Does all of this make sense to everyone?
Yes.
yes.
Now, I'm going to
Yeah.
read the negotiation section, which was the very difficult section, where the person will have to go through an additional layer of review by the judge under these circumstances. And like I said, this was a very, very tough negotiation. but it was the only way we could get this bill to continue to survive. So the additional layer of review comes in for criminal sexual misconduct against a child under 13, aggravated domestic violence, which means that you have to have been convicted of 5 or more consecutive domestic violence incidents against one person. Aggravated production of child sexually abusive activity and material, or human trafficking. Under those circumstances, there will be an additional layer of judicial review. So basically, you have to have run, so the child pornography section, that is the top offense. So in order to qualify for that offense, you basically have to be a major producer and distributor of child pornography. Now, we've looked through the stats, and this is not a widespread problem in Michigan. And the same happens to be true of human trafficking, which is great. Those are the offenses for which the judge has to review whether or not they are going to put forth your application. But the judge still has the discretion to hear those cases should they so choose. So it is an additional hoop. It is not a full exclusion. Does that make sense? Because there could be an innocence case amongst those cases. So we don't want to take away the judge's ability to hear them at all. Does everybody understand everything that I just said? And I'm open for questions if anybody has them or feedback. What are you saying, Cynthia? You're muted. I'm sorry. I see you talking.
That was my microphone. It kept getting stuck.
Yeah,
Oh,
very
okay.
well spoken. You answered all my questions. Thank you. Very well spoken, very well crafted and put together. Thank you.
So for people who are serving life without the possibility of parole, here's how the resentencing is going to go. What they're going to do is, based on the amount of time you've served, they're going to resentence you to a new range where the time that you have served is your now corresponding minimum.
Wow.
Meaning that once you've met your minimum statute for parole, you're able to go before the parole board.
Okay.
So for people serving life without parole, that's how it has to go, because they have to be resentenced to a new term of years in order to make them eligible for parole. And then they'll go before the parole board, you know, as everyone else does. And as we all know, our lifers have the lowest risk threat assessment of pretty much anybody who is currently in MDOC. They're the leaders in MDOC. I've had the privilege of meeting many of them. So I'm really not concerned about their chances. But there are a few things that I want everyone to keep in mind. We are talking about a significant number of people who are incarcerated in Michigan. The case dockets are going to be heavy and long. And I cannot guarantee that your loved one is going to be home in a year or 24 months. It is going to take us a long time to work our way through everyone. And we are hoping to start with the people who are sickest and most likely to die soon, so that at the very least, they might have a little bit of peace before they move on to glory. So I'm going to have to ask everybody to be patient around the implementation of this bill and your loved one's hearing. But I guarantee you, knock wood, once this bill is passed, I know that all of us are going to put our shoulders to the wheel to get these applications in tip-top shape, to get representation for folks, and to make sure that we put everyone in the best possible position for resentencing. Nadia, was your hand up or were you doing something? I couldn't
No,
tell.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Who would, real quick, I have a question with what you were saying, but who would like to go in next?
Yeah, they're ready for.
I would.
Aisha, you're ready? Perfect.
I-
Thank you, thank you. All right, my question, I was at the PCAP exhibit and attended the traveling town hall with People of Action Coalition. And I asked this about the JLWOP for 18-year-olds. And I said, why are we not asking for help when we are in the processes of following what a past bill has allowed these individuals to have their time to be resentenced? Is there somewhere to request support in getting these individuals resentenced faster?
So the unfortunate thing, so there are areas where we have control and there are areas where we have less control. Unfortunately, court dockets are one of the areas where we have the least control. What we do have the ability to do is put pressure on the system because we have numbers. What we do have control over is putting these cases in the press. What we do have control over is how much advocacy we do on behalf of our loved ones. And a lot of the people who are incarcerated, I know many people on this call have some of the fiercest advocates I know. I feel very sorry for anybody who attempts to delay your loved one's applications. I might send them a fruit basket. They have no idea what they're in for.
My thing with that is, I mean, we've been doing this all over the United States. We know that this is an issue at the court levels. We know that one county versus another is going to have a lot more population that needs to be seen, heard. Why can we not get these counties to band together inside the court system and do what they already know they are going to do? They are going to resentence these men and women. They are going to, and they know that. They have it in writing. Why and how can we get them to, somehow come together and help each other?
So this is really going to be a case of a lot of judicial education after this bill is passed. And it's going to be like the JLWOP cases, I would imagine. It started out super slow, and then it picked up steam once the judiciary got comfortable with the fact of how this kind of goes. And we will help them along. But I will say this. In my conversations with the Judges Association, because I have spoken to their leadership, they are in support of this. So here is what I would advise. At the very least, at the leadership level, and individual judges are their own issue, but at the leadership level of the Judges Association, we have allies. Let's thank them. Let's make them feel comfortable with this. Let them feel that we are going to support them in re-election. And you will watch this whole thing start to go a whole hell of a lot faster. But let's also be perfectly honest. There are a lot of people who don't like this bill out there in the world, who believe that that people who are incarcerated are monsters and that they will continue to be monsters and that letting them out is dangerous for society. Now, we all know that's not true, but we're not the only voices around. And so what we have to do is make sure that we are the most organized, powerful, and loudest voices on this and keep the judges on our side, because because what I'm hoping is they'll get to the point of comfort with this. Well, they'll just start releasing people by category, meaning they'll actually start stacking cases where all of these variables are true and just start pushing them through. That's the level of comfort I'd like to get them to. What's up, Bonnie? It's good to see you, by the way.
Thanks. I'm on 2 Zooms at the same time. So, so I understand the court piece. I mean, I'd like to see, is there any way for us to do fundraising or get funds to see maybe a whole judiciary committee that develops that's all they do is this one? And then what do we have put in place that we get these judges and we get them to get what do we have in place for the parole board? How are we educating them so they actually say, yes, they're releasable? The judges are one component, but what are we doing on the parole board side too? Because we all know they don't want to release anybody. So how are we
Right.
advocating that?
So here's the interesting thing. The Michigan Department of Corrections has a problem right now. They got not nearly enough staff. They've got a ton of aging lifers. They don't have enough medical staff. They're getting sued left, right, and center. And when I went to visit Chippewa facility, the girl who patted me down was about 12.
What?
And she's not
It's
ready for
true.
prime time. And she ain't ready for prime time, right? If something popped off at Chippewa, which it really wouldn't, but if it did, she is not ready for prime time. I can tell you that right now. So MDOC has this problem, and they have offered everything but a Rolls Royce, essentially. I'm editorializing, but they've offered hiring bonuses. They've offered everything in order to hire. And the reason that they have worked with me on this is because they need to get rid of people.
Mhm.
And even when I was up at Chippewa, I talked to the warden, I talked to the head of education, I talked to the head of events, and I just said, tell me straight, what do you think about this bill? And they said, I like it. And it's on the people who are incarcerated to earn it. And there are a number of people that we would recommend right out the gate. And
One
so
second.
my
Who would
feeling
like to
is
go
that-
next?
I think Dana was trying to go in. Dana, were you trying to go in?
She just came out, I thought.
No,
Uh,
Isla just came out.
Yeah. Dana,
Is it-
you wanted to go in?
I already went
Okay.
in.
He is our speaker on my other Zoom. Do we
Steve,
have
are
a
you
question
ready?
for Kyle? Or anything we want to say to Kyle? I could say it.
Dana
Kaminsky's
already
on?
went in.
Kyle Kaminsky's on the VAC Zoom right
boy.
now. talking. So if we have a question we want to pose to him, I can pose it on my other Zoom.
Kyle has been spoken to on a multitude of occasions, and this bill has already been edited to his satisfaction.
Yes.
Ain't nothing else to say to Kyle.
Mhm.
Perfect.
Kyle and I talk far too regularly. I'm sure he's sick of me at this juncture.
Kyle Kaminsky is the head of what at
No one could ever be
MDOC?
sick of you, Alex.
No.
I beg to differ. Kyle,
Well, I haven't gotten there yet.
Thank you, Bonnie. Love you too. Kyle Kaminsky is the head of legislative strategy for MDOC.
Thank you.
So basically, any bill that goes through the state legislature that impacts MDOC, he is basically their mouthpiece and the person who decides their positions. And I've gone through this bill with him on a multitude of occasions, and really edited extensively based on how MDOC wants this bill to go. But I think his willingness to do that and not just come out in opposition has to do with the fact that MDOC has a problem. They don't have enough staff. They're having massive problems. COVID has certainly not improved things. They cannot hire despite their very best efforts. They have a massive aging population that has Michigan on a collision course financially. They cannot hire the medical staff in order to handle all of this. And they've pumped all this money into education within the prisons, not nearly
Right.
sufficient. But one of the things that I've pointed out to them is, why are you doing that and not checking on your investment? You have a lot of people now who are very highly educated. They're very capable of returning. They have flawless institutional records. They would be recommended by MDOC. So in speaking to the parole board, the most powerful help we have is MDOC. The parole board might not like us, but they certainly like their friends over at MDOC. And the fact that, and the judges having signed off on anyone's particular case gives the parole board an additional level of political cover that they usually don't have. So by getting everyone in the system involved, we have allowed them to kind of be like a three-legged stool, if that makes sense. Nobody wants to be brave and go out there on their own on any of this, but going all together, holding hands like the Wizard of Oz, they seem to have a lot more comfort, if that makes sense.
It does. It does.
What's up, Darcella? Did I say your name right?
Okay, so I'm kind of new to this. This is actually my first Zoom meeting. It's my first time getting into the group.
Thank
Welcome
you
to
for
the dark side.
coming.
Thank you. So I do have some questions because my loved one, my fiance, has been serving 16 years in prison for a crime he did not do. And so while we're waiting on this bill to get passed, what are some things that he can do on what I can do, what he can do on our end, on getting prepared for this, or just getting ready to have that opportunity to say, here's your chance.
Well, number one, he's very lucky to have you, because somebody who has a home and a loved one to return to that will offer them stability is going to help them.
Okay.
So here's what this is what I said when I was up at Chippewa, and this is what I've said to every incarcerated person who's called me, and I will say it until I'm blue in the face. Everyone who's there, it literally doesn't matter what anyone does or says. Start acting like this bill has already passed and you have a hearing date. So
Okay.
if therapy is available to you, start. If education is available to you, start. If you are not mentoring people and you have the opportunity to, start. If there is any vocational, anything that you can do, start. All the rules and regulations, screw it, follow them. Your freedom is worth it. If they like your bed military tuck, just go on ahead and do it. And
Yeah.
literally, I said at Chippewa, I was like, I understand that there are people here who might not like each other, who've disliked each other for decades. You just need to ask whether or not that's worth your freedom
Okay.
and your chance at freedom. And so what I
Okay.
say to everybody is dot your I's and cross all of your T's. If you have a National Lifers Association and they have programming available, take it. Or any other association, take it. If you're in there with TARP, the Adolescent Redemption Project, and they've got something for you to do it.
Okay.
If you reach out to your family members, this is now the time to mend fences, get your family back together, get in touch with your kids. If there's a job available to you, take it. Show them everything that is good about you, because this is what the judge is going to consider. And that's how you can get ready. And then for family members, having a place for them to stay and be, job opportunities for them, therapy opportunities for them, volunteer opportunities for them that they will take part in when they get home. Line it up. Talk to them about it. Talk to them about their options. Line it up. Literally, it's like they're doing this, and when they come out, they're doing that. There's nothing to talk about. There's nothing to see here. Stamp it, move it along. And the more clean cut a person is, the easier it's going to be.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Kathy.
My daughter is president of NLA
Wonderful.
at Huron Valley. She's been there. We're in our 27th year.
Number one, I'm very, very sorry to hear that.
You may have heard of her. Her name is Anitra Coomer.
Yes, I have heard of her.
Yes, I have
That's
her.
my
I've
daughter.
talked with her.
I
You
have,
too? You've heard of her?
I've
I
talked with her.
You do?
I talked
have?
with Anitra. Yep, I've talked with
Yeah.
her and Jamie. Jamie?
Jamie, yeah.
Yes.
Jamie's
I lost their phone contact number when I lost my phone.
Deirdre and then Darcella, I see you have questions.
Oh. Okay. Yeah, you were answering.
Deirdre, you're muted. We can't hear you.
I'm sorry, Ms. Nadia, Mr. Jason is ready for the next person. And that was actually a hand raised to let Ms. Nadia know. that he
Thank
said
you.
he's
Who
ready
would
for
like
the
to go in
person.
next?
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter? All right.
Cynthia,
I
you
gotta
ready to
pick
go?
someone.
Yeah, I can go. Mhm.
All right, I'll send you in. Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you.
What was your question, Darcella?
Okay, and one more. Okay, so far as when the bill passed, will we need like a lawyer or a counsel to have the application submitted?
Nadia, do me a favor, turn off the recording, please.